Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Kaha Kodash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than never. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing, a colored thing, but an Israelite thing. For the Israelites has been scattered among all people. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone, coming at you with another lesson in truth. This will be part 2 of these types of lessons. Hebrew Israelite deniers ignore. I wonder why. All right. And I did this this lesson maybe 2-3 days ago. This is part 2. And like you see, I've put on the screen the website Thrift Books. So this is a used copy of a book that I highly suggest you get if you're serious about, learning, to study thyself, approve. All right, because this book, this Young's Dictionary Bible, is a really good asset to have to prove the doctrine of Yahweh B'Shem Abishai, which is a doctrine that is taught by the apostles and elder bishops of the Great Millstone, the true leaders of all of Israel on earth today, whether you receive that or not, whether you agree with that or not. And we're going to go into the word church, okay? And what that word means, all right, is going to shake a lot of people up. But before I do that, I want to go to this to Acts 17, and I'm gonna read verses like 10 through 13 about the church of Berea. Okay, and this is Acts 17:10, and it reads, "And the brethren," now refer back to the first video, which goes into that, brethren, kinsmen, who they are. All right. It's not just someone who believes this, but it's someone of the same bloodline or race. So we're talking about Israelites here. Okay. It says, "And the brethren immediately sent Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Israelites." I'm not going to say that J word. I'm just not going to do it. Remember, I've already broken down that the word JEW is a hijack for Israelites. Okay, these people, they added the hook to the letter I, created the letter J, and in the 1860s, they hijacked the Israelite culture, the Israelite name, and interchanged it and made it interchangeable with that JEW word. All right, so that's why people are so confused. All right, the 12 tribes of Israel were Israelites. They were not Jewish. Abraham was not Jewish. Isaac was not Jewish. Jacob was not Jewish. That's a hijack and confusion and a fraud. All right. It tells you, before I even continue reading, in their own information, let's go to the receipts. Within their own documents and information. All right. And here's two references to that. That the Edomite JEWs began to call themselves Hebrews and Israelites. See, they began to call in the 1860s. Encyclopedia Judaica, 1971. All right. So the JEWs began to call themselves Hebrew Israelites. All right. And they interchange it. They don't refer to that term. When you hear Hebrew Israelites, you think of the people that are on the streets that teach very aggressively, the same way that they did in same thing that happened back in Rome when Claudius kicked the Israelites out of Rome for aggressive street teaching. That's right there in Acts 18:1 and 2. Esau Edom is modern Jewry, 1925 J-ish Encyclopedia, Volume 5, page 41. They are not Israel or Judah. So remember that J word, J-E-W, or you add the ish on the end of it. That is a hijack. All right. They stole the culture of the Israelites and changed the name to fit a narrative. Okay. I remember I was wearing a ring once, and a J-ish person said, "That's J-ish." All right. So going back to that Acts now, it says Acts 17:11. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica. So about the Israelites that were in Thessalonica. So the Israelites were scattered. The diaspora had happened. The Israelites were scattered among the heathen nations all throughout Asia. And because you notice Paul, it never mentioned Europe in the Bible. That's something that came about during the Renaissance when they changed, they added the name Europe in there. And now you'll hear the word, or you will hear the term Eurasia, or you'll hear Europe. All right. In the Bible, when you're reading about the travels of Paul and the Israelites being in Rome and Thessalonica and all these different places, it never said anything about the Middle East. It never said anything about Europe. Those are all afterthoughts. Also used in the same manner as the J-ish word, to hijack and create a narrative. Okay. But it says, so these Israelites that were in Thessalonica, they were more noble, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things be so. So when they heard Paul teach something, they searched the scriptures to find it. All right. Which is what we must do, which is what we have done. Even our apostles and elders told us out the gate, just don't take our word for it. Look it up for yourself. And so they were setting the stage, and they were leading by example. They were leading by example, which is what a true leader does. A true leader just doesn't sit back and orchestrate war. A true leader goes to war with his men, like King David did, like I did, like I do. All right. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner and now teacher, and long retired, mainly because of this truth. I disinvolved myself with that world as far as competition and all that sort of thing, so that I could focus on, doing the work of Yahweh Bashem Nawashai, became the camp head, and that was my focus. But because I teach, you have to lead by example. So, so I started competing again, not for my own gratification, but to lead from out front. Win or lose, I had to show my men, my students, just how to get out there. So I stepped out there to do that on faith, the faith of the Lord, man. And the two things are so connected. You have no idea how much the two things are connected. But nevertheless, you lead from the front. So, these Israelites in Berea, that's what they did. They took that message that they got from Paul, but they stepped out there on their own, with faith, to study, to show themselves approved. Okay, you got to get out there and do it to prove your doctrine, to prove your faith. Faith without works is death. That's James 2:18. All right. It says, therefore, many of them believed also of the honorable women, which were Greeks and of men, and not a few. But when the JEWs of Thessalonica had knowledge, or we'll just say the Israelites, that the word of God was preached of Paul at Berea, they came thither also and stirred up the people. All right. So they were helping to progress the doctrine of Yahweh Bashem Nawashai, and many of the women believe. We got lots of women who now believe. A lot of them show their support on the comment boards by saying shalom and, great lesson, the water. They're letting their presence be known, okay? That they also believe. And when we're entering that time again, all right? So let's go to the word church now, because these Christians, all right, you have in this book with G. Douglas the Young's his PhD, he has a whole group of scholars that are with him. You have James Swampson, George Giacomakis, John R. Kohlenberger, the president of the Institute of the Land of Studies of Jerusalem. Okay, so he has a whole panel of scholars, and and I've said for many years now that the biblical scholars, the churches don't teach what the scholars have put into the books for you so that you can understand the Bible. The churches teach the doctrines of men, and really racist Edomite men who try and change the doctrine to fit the narrative of Christianity. Christianity is not aligned with the teachings of the scholars that put together their Bibles and their books. All right. So let's go to this word church, which is on page 144. Man, you can't make this up, man. Hold on, let me just show you. In this book, all right, church, and of course the definition is at the top of the page, but look at the number. Hold on. 144. Church. All right. So here's the definition. I'm going to hold it so that you can screenshot it. But it says, the Hebrews equivalent to Qahal, which is a religious sense referred to Israel as a religious body. It didn't say all people, all right, or the natural, or the Greek-ish people who were of the other nations. The early church carried this religious sense over the ecclesia and considered itself to be part of the true Israel of God. See, there was a separation, a difference. Those who from any background had faith of Abraham, that's in, and that anyone was still talking about Israelites. Then they gave you Romans 4, 16 and 18. We'll read those. 9, 6 through 8. Now, because I read that in the last lesson. They skipped 1 through 5 on purpose. And then Galatians 3, 14 and 29, where they would say, if you believe on Abraham, then if you believe, then you are of Abraham's seed. No, that's not talking about anyone. They try to make it for anyone, and it's not. It's talking about Israelites. When you go to the book of Acts, the 21st chapter, Acts 2 and 21, it reads, and it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be saved, or whoever calls on the name of the Lord. Verse 22, ye men of Israel, hear these words. See, they stop short of that, or they'll go to the one in Romans and just say anyone who believes, and then they run with that. That's a lie. And they notice, and they purposely, teach the opposite. All right. So it says, once again, ye men, verse 22, Acts 2 and 22, ye men of Israel, hear these words. Yahushua of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you, miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did by him in the midst of you, as ye yourselves also know. So even the Bible is telling you that, that the Lord was powered by his Father and did it in the name of his Father, because Christianity also teaches that Yahushua is God, and they're going off when they teach you that. He has the power of God, but he is not God. The Lord gave him, instilled that power in him. He's not the God. All right. He's number 2. All right. He's the Son of God. And and even though they know this, they teach that lie. And the reason they're teaching that lie is because they're trying to get around seed and bloodline. They're trying to avoid that truth, that inconvenient truth for them. So when we go back to church, okay, it gave us hold on, let me go back to it. It was page 144. So let's just do it that way. Because what it's going to do is going to eventually lead us right back to the election. Okay. So it says, see ecclesia. So that would counteract the scriptures that they wrote. And then, like I said, you notice how when you go to Romans, let's go there real quick, because I did this in the last lesson. We'll do it again. When you go to the book of Romans, they started at 9. They started at verse 6 and just skipped 1 through 5. All right. It says, verse 6, it says, not as though the word of God have taken none effect, for they are not all Israelites which are of Israel. So they're trying to prove that you can be a spiritual Israelite too. That's the false doctrine that they're trying to push. And if you start reading right there and skip 1 through 5, you might believe that. It says, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So this is where they telling themselves, because you have to be of the seed of Abraham, right? But you also have to come out of Isaac, and not just Isaac, but you have to come out of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, because Esau came out of Isaac as well. But Esau got put by, all right? Which when you keep reading, it tells you that. Okay. Matter of fact, verse 8, it says that they are the children of the flesh. That is, they that are the children of the flesh, which are the other Hebrews, the ones that came out of Esau, or the ones that are the other Hebrew nations. There are other Hebrew nations: the Elamites, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Ishmaelites, Ishmael. They're all Hebrews too. Why? Because they came out of the same line as Abraham. All right. And remember, Abram the Hebrew. Okay, that's in I believe that's Genesis 14:13. All right. And it says, verse 8 again, that they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted as seed. The children of the promise were the children of Abraham that came via Jacob. Them and them only. That is the church. That is the ecclesia right there. Right. And not only that, but the elect of the ecclesia. All right. It says, for this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but Rebekah also conceived by even our father Isaac, for the children not being born yet, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of according to God, an election might stand. See, election, that's a very important word. So we're dealing with the church, ecclesia, and election right now. Not the works, but of him that calleth. But it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So the book of Romans was a bad example for them to push and give you verses 9, 6 through 8, because when you keep reading the 13, it lets you know that Esau is also a son of Abraham, but he's hated and he's put by. It tells you in Hebrews, the 12th chapter, 14. Let me just get it, and we'll go back to Romans 1 through 5 as we bring out more evidences from this Bible. But let's go to Hebrews, and this is New Testament too, telling you that this whole race of people, which is millions of them, they have no chance of salvation. They have no mercy for them. Yeah, this is Hebrews 12 and 16, and it reads, and this is the same one who was hated of the Lord, Esau. It said, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. All right, and profane means outside of, the church, outside of the graces of the Lord, basically. All right, for ye know that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears, which completely annihilates the fraudulent lie that Christianity teaches that folk have, pushes, and people like him. All right, these fools in Christianism that push this universal. That's what Catholicism means. Universal. There is no universal salvation. Hell, not even all the Israelites are going to get salvation the first go around, only the elect. The rest of Israel gets the blessings after their punishment, after their destruction. That will be the 2/3 who are already marked for destruction. Okay? So, and ecclesia, which is church, means called out. Matter of fact, let's go to Isaiah 48. All right? And that, because matter of fact, that's in the Greek, that word is G2564, called out. Okay? So let me go to Isaiah 48. I wrote that down a long time ago, so let's see why I did that. Isaiah 48 and 12. And it reads, hearken unto me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. That's why. I am he, I am the first, I am also the last. So he didn't call to all people. He called to Jacob. Point blank, period. That is the church of God. That is the called out. All right. So now let's go into back into this Young's Dictionary Bible. And it said to see ecclesia. All right. So when you go to ecclesia, that word is church. Okay. And which is also the redeemed. Okay. So that's election. Hold on. And chosen. Salakia, I'm turning to it. This book is really yeah. So I got chosen people here. And then I have election, which is what the word ecclesia or church led us to in this book. All right? Because it said see ecclesia. All right, in a sense. And that's the called out. And that's the church. Okay? So, hold on. Give me a second here. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to start with, because it says it's taking me to the election of chosen people. So that's on page 126. So let's put that in the frame. All right, you can screenshot that. Chosen people. Okay, screenshot it. And then I'm going to pull back and read it, because it's a little uncomfortable holding it here like this. All right. So, yeah, you screenshot it. Good. Let's bring it back. It says, chosen people. God has, matter of fact, I'm just go down to the highlighted part. It says see election, because that's how you get rid of, because they'll say chosen anyone who believes. That's what they'll tell you. But when you go down to election, elect or election, it says for the discussion of the choice of individuals, the concept in the OT is that Israel were God's chosen people. He chose Abraham while he was in Ur and brought him to Canaan. God's promise to bless the world through Abraham's seed. All right. And it said on Galatians 3:16, God chose the seed of Abraham, all right, when he brought them out of bondage in Egypt and gave them their way of life, the law. So that's not all people. He didn't give that to all people. All right. And that makes you think of Joel, the second chapter, verses 27-28, when it says that you only have I known of all the families on the earth. Therefore, you shall go into, derision, roughly paraphrase. Someone could put that on the comment board, because we were given that law and then we violated that law. So as a punishment, we got scattered among the heathen. All right. And now many of us look like the heathen. That was part of the punishment. All right. Now we're in the time when the Lord is gathering us back up. It says God's spiritual purpose in this choice or election of the people, that he would have a people to be holy to himself, to be his witness in the world. See, so the Israelites are the ones that bring this message to the world, not anyone who just believes. Okay, the Lord has a chosen people on earth, men that were set forth to teach this knowledge. It says, to be the witness in the world and bring the blessings of salvation to all peoples through the Messiah, who was to descend from them. Yep, so he had to be descended of people from them, right? The Lord had to be Israelite. We once had a street teacher tell us that Jesus wasn't no Israelite. It's like, really, niggas? All right, it says, and then it gives you a bunch of scriptures. So that's the other part of the definition, which I'm also going to show you those highlighted portions so that you can screenshot those. This is the rest of the definition of chosen, of chosen people. And it said, see election. You see? I highlighted the most important parts because it makes it clear that it's talking about, let's go down to the bottom. That's the beginning of it. All right. Page 126. And when you read to the bottom and continue, and this is the rest of the definition, okay? So now let's go to election. I thought I was gonna have to go into this. I guess I could. I have the King James dictionary on deck also ready, but it don't look like I'm even going to it. All right, we're killing them with the Young's. I've been, I'm always talking about these Young's Dictionary Bible, man. This is, and like I said, and with the Christianity, Catholicism, the apologists, they teach a bunch of doctrines of man that don't match up scripturally. And then they take scriptures that are clearly talking about the Israelites and try to apply them to all people. That is what Vocab Malone does every day. All right. But constantly. And people like him. So we're on page 187. And that's where we find election. All right. So screenshot it. Take that screenshot. Now I'm going to move it up so you can get the rest of it, the rest of the highlighted version. Get that screenshot because it's telling you the chosen people, predestinated saints, salvation, all right, is of what the scriptures say. There we go. Got the whole thing right there. Get that screenshot. Bible Kusha. So let's read through that now. We get ready to wrap it up. But election, all right. I'm going to just jump right down to the highlighted part. The redeeming grace of God is indeed to deliver men from sin. Only the Israelites, under the law, only the Israelites can sin. It tells you in the 1 John that that sin is the transgression of law. Okay? A law that was given only to the Israelites. Point blank, period. The concept of election that is of God is that God, out of his mere good pleasure, from all eternity, elected some to everlasting life. Not all, some. And did enter into a covenant of grace to deliver them out of a state of sin and misery and bring them, the Israelites, think of James 1:1, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Greeting, this is a message to them. All right. And bring them into an estate of salvation by a redeemer who, as we read, chosen and elect, came from among them. The Lord in Hebrews 7:14 tells you that he is of the tribe of Yahweh, of Judah. Okay? He's one of them. Jumping down to the next highlighted portion. And it has 1 Peter 1 and 2. Yep. To the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Basically, same thing that James said. All right. Then Ephesians 1, 3, and 5. The predestinated. I read first Ephesians often. All right. The verses like 1 through 9. It makes it plain that it's about the predestinated, about the chosen, the Israelites. Okay. There is no obligation upon God to bring into presence any of those who are in sin or rebellion against him, and thus uninterested in any particular relation with them in his grace. However, through election, he sees that the sum of the vast multitude will come to him. All right, that sum of the vast multitude shall come to him. All right. In the New Testament, the concept is almost always in relation to individuals. In the Old Testament, one of its chief uses is of the choosing of Israel as a people, because he loved them and had to keep the oath he swore to their fathers and brought them out of Egypt. Also see chosen people, predestinate, saints, salvation, application. The saints of the Bible are the Israelites and no other people. So I'm going to just read about the predestinated in Ephesians, and we'll wrap this up. Okay. A set of scriptures that I use often, to prove that point. Ephesians 1, and he said 3 through 9, but I typically read 1 through 5. Then I jump to verse 9. All right, so Ephesians 1 and 1. Paul, an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach, by the will of God, see, not his own will, but by the will of the Father, Yahweh, to the saints, which is the chosen people, the elect, the called out, the Israelites, and not only the Israelites, but the Israelites of God, which is his elect. Because not all Israel is Israel. 2/3 of our people are already sanctioned to die on this side. All right. They get the blessings when they're born again on the other side. Yes, reincarnated. All right. It says, to the saints which are at Ephesus and the faithful in Hamashiach Yahushua, grace be unto you and peace from God our Father, personal pronoun, and from the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Blessed be God and the Father of our Lord, another personal pronoun, not everybody's God and Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach, who have blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Hamashiach, according as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. The elect were there in the beginning of creation. All right, they're spirits. Okay, that's why that makes them special. And he's going to get those same chosen vessels out of this mess, all right, that we're in down here. It says, according as he have chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without, holy meaning separate, and without blame before him in love. So you have a certain people that are among all the other people who are elect and chosen and without blame among everyone else. Not because they did anything special, but simply because they were the elect. They were there in the beginning. Vocab alone, Christianity does not teach that, even though these Bible scholars are putting this information in these dictionary Bibles. All right. It says, having predestinated us unto the adoption, you can only be brought back if you're predestinated, chosen. Simple as that. Unto the adoption of the children by Yahushua Mashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Jumping down to verse 9. Having made known unto us the mystery of his will, according to the good pleasure which he hath purposed to himself. All right. Verse 10. That in the dispensation of fullness of the times, which we're in, he might gather together in one all things in Hamashiach, both which are in heaven and which are on earth, even in him, because some of the elect are resting in the spirit world right now. Okay, some brothers have died in the service of Yahushua down here. All right. In whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. So it's all about Yahweh Shai, his chosen, his elect, the church, the called out. All right. Not church according to the doctrines of men and people like fraudulent liars like Vocab Malone, the Apologist Church, the Baptist Church, the Catholicism, and any other of these lying Christian entities, or even the falses of Judaism. All right, those things are not biblical. So with that, I want to give all praises, going honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash Kwam Yasharala Abad Babal.